Pokemon has always been a game about using the creatures you love to battle your way through the game, but sometimes they're just not strong enough. The turn-based battle system that these games follow limits the Pokemon and basically gets rid of their strongest move, jumping out of the way. And this generally means that the stronger Pokemon always wins. But what if I told you that there was a fan-made game out there which fixes all these problems? Well, look no further than Pokemon Reloaded, a game that has real-time Pokemon combat and has been in the work for over 15 years. You might be wondering how this works. Well, you the player have full control of your Pokemon and get to move them around the battlefield when faced against wild Pokemon or trainers. The goal is to defeat the enemy Pokemon by using attacks that are binded to different keys which are customizable for your preference. The keybinds take a little getting used to, but once you learn them, this game becomes a ton of fun. Attacks based on their description can either be physical, such as Quick Attack or Dragon Claw, which generally make your Pokemon lunge towards the target, and ranged moves like Flamethrower and Stone Edge, which give you an advantage as you can attack from a distance. From my experience of playing the game, I'd advise to have a mix of physical and ranged moves as strategy is important. Having a move like Quick Attack or Teleport can quickly help you get out of the way of an attack, or even something like Double Team to create clones. Even moves like Calm Mind and Swords Dance are super good because you can raise your stats and then sweep the opposition, so those are some of the ways I would recommend getting out of tough fights. The combat system all boils down to this purple bar which indicates your power points. Any move you use will make use of that bar, but it fills back up in just a few seconds. The game doesn't only apply what we already know about these moves, but also takes logical steps to combat. For example, if two Pokemon charge in with physical moves, they both take damage, but if two range attacks meet head-on, they either collide, which nullifies the attack, or the stronger move will overpower the other and go right through. Since this combat system values strategy, you could just as easily walk up to the champion and beat them with a Magikarp if you play your cards right. Or maybe not. When I was playing for the first time, the first few trainers were cool, seeing what kind of moves they used and stuff, but it was tough at the same time because if you don't know what you're doing, you could just as easily be defeated by a level 3 Patrat with a rapid firing Bullet Seed. I mean, it took me 2 hours to realize that I could press the spacebar to showcase what Pokemon I could switch into mid-battle. On a whole different topic, a cool feature that I wasn't expecting at all was that if your Pokemon hits the conditions to evolve while on the battlefield, it will do it mid-battle, which is amazing. These were the most notable features about the battle system, so now let's move on to the region. This game takes place in an area called the Star Region, which introduces about 30 new Fakemon, from new starters to evolutions for existing Pokemon like Eevee and Ditto. They also have all the Pokemon up to Generation 8, so it's not like they're forcing you to use any of the Fakemon if you don't like the idea of them. Your journey begins in a small town when you're given the task of filling up the Pokédex, and so with a new list of starter Pokemon, you set out on your journey with the goal of beating the 8 gyms of the region and becoming the champion. If you want to use the traditional starter Pokemon instead, fear not, because you can find them hidden in different areas of the map, and I thought this was a really fun way of being rewarded for exploration. The map of this region is fantastic as it is super user-friendly. The Pokédex is also well made, showing you the Pokemon you caught, where you can find them in the wild, what the evolution conditions are, and what moves they learn down the line. Speaking of exploration, you can find trial captains from Alola, and if you complete their challenges, you will be awarded with Z crystals that make for very powerful attacks in battle. These are basically timed challenges where you have to beat a bunch of boss Pokemon who may call for backup, so it could turn into a 2v1 situation, which can be challenging. The Z moves in battle are extremely powerful, and as long as you aim in the vicinity, they almost never miss. The other returning feature is Mega Evolution, which is only accessible after beating the 7th gym, but since there is an incredibly long post-game, it's well worth the wait. The story of this game unfortunately didn't really catch my interest, as you kinda just find the evil teams of the past regions, like Team Rocket and Galactic, doing bad things and messing around with the legendary Pokemon. I'm not saying that was bad, but it felt incomplete as I assumed the entire story only finishes in the postgame, which I have not played. The postgame has a lot of content as after you become the Star Region's champion, you can take on 4 previous leagues from Kanto to Sinnoh, so you'll be fighting gym leaders like Brock and Misty, and while doing that you have these quests dealing with legendary Pokemon and exploring 2 new smaller regions called the Archipelago and the Jungle, where the evil teams are plotting something sinister. So it all sounds like a very good post-game, but I just don't know. Now let's move on to the other features that this game provides, like Pokemon following you. Going back to the Gen 2 days when the first Pokemon in your party follows you, and it adds so much more life into the game. This game tried to be a bit different than the others, as they also had a focus on external moves which had effects at a battle. I mean, besides stuff like Flash to brighten up caves, there are other custom external moves like Miracle Eye, which helps you find hidden items and Mega Stones on routes, as well as Extreme Speed, which is a ride Pokemon that moves super quick. Only certain Pokemon get these moves, so you might want to take these factors into consideration when building your team. Some of the other areas that are fun and help you take your focus off the battling aspect are the Safari Zone, where you can catch a ton of Pokemon with them being able to run off if you don't play the situation right, and also a racing course. I mean, this was a bit of a surprise for me, but it was a good change of pace, and from what I could tell, there is also a battle factory in the post-game, so good luck with that. When you start the game, you have a choice in choosing which difficulty setting you want to play, and this is actually very important. The only difference between them is how much damage each Pokemon takes. So for example, if I'm playing on professional difficulty, both you and your opponent's Pokemon take twice the damage compared to the normal difficulty. I personally used the professional setting on my very first time playing the game, as I thought saving time was the best way to play, as you don't want the battles to drag on for too long. And from my experience, it felt fun and fresh. Besides that, you can also customize your character at the beginning of the game, and you have so many options, including different clothing. Another important point is the experience share, which can be turned on and off according to how you want to play the game, but I would recommend you leave it on, as you'll hear why in the next segment. Although this game is very fun when playing for the first time, there were a few not so fun segments, like this area called Palace Swamp. It's a swamp which slows down your movement, and on top of that, it was a maze, so finding the exit was extremely annoying. There were no trainers on this route as well, so it was the one point in this game that I genuinely thought was a pure waste of time. When it comes to training your Pokemon in this game, it can be time consuming. In general, I didn't have to train until about like the 5th or 6th gym, because I used a set team for the most part, but training a new Pokemon from scratch is hard, as trainers in wild Pokemon aren't as high leveled compared to the gym leaders that I had to fight, so they didn't give enough experience. So it would have been nice if there was some sort of training facility, but unfortunately, there's not. Another annoying feature to me was the cell phone, which was in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I mean, the whole purpose of this is so that characters can contact you about the next steps you need to take in the story. But what annoyed me most was that random trainers kept giving me their numbers and interrupted the flow of my gameplay. I mean, that's just a personal opinion of mine, cause some of you guys might want to go back and fight those old trainers, but to me it was kind of an interruption. All in all, this is a great Pokemon fan game, especially if it's your first time playing through it. A lot of things will catch you by surprise in a fun way, and the real-time combat alone should be a reason for you to try this out. If you guys enjoyed the video, I would love it if you considered subscribing, as it helps me out a ton, and also if you want to see an entire video based on this game, including the post-game, make sure to leave your support in the comments and through likes. Anyways, that's about it for me. I'll see you guys next time.